You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour. And backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Wheel podcast. And today we are going to talk about something a little different. Today we're going to talk about RV legends, campground myths, and strange things people claim to experience on the road. So something a little different from our normal podcast, but we thought it would be interesting to talk about it. And as you'll hear, some are clearly exaggerated and others maybe not so much. So, Kenny, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting episode, and I have some of my own stories, my own personal experience to add into some of this. I guess you could call it lore. So yeah, I'm ready to jump into this and maybe not debunk anything. I might actually be doing a little bit different. I might be egging this on a little bit of things that I've heard on the road as well as things that I have experienced.
Yeah, conspiracy theories are like way more popular than they ever have been. So I figure we could jump on the bandwagon with some RV related conspiracies, maybe.
Yeah, and I think internet has really propelled that conspiracy. The fact that people can kind of meet up online and pass these stories. I think these stories travel further faster than ever before, and I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with, internet has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and plus everything on the internet is true anyway. So
That's true. If you read it on the internet,
uh,
it is 100% true. You don't even have to fact check anymore.
that's right.
I am being very sarcastic for anybody that thinks I'm being serious.
So let's start with a few of the most widely circulated myths and half truths in the RV world. And first up is the campground code.
Yeah, and I think the idea here is that some campgrounds and the hosts of these campgrounds, rangers, use like subtle indicators to mark your vehicle tags or flags or chalk marks to signal things about an incoming guest. Like maybe you have a history of checking out late. You're slow to pack up and get out. You're supposed to be out by 11 a.m., but every single time you visit this campground, you're dragging your feet, and maybe you're not getting out till noon or 12:30, giving them only 30 minutes to clean up that site and get ready for the next person. Maybe you're just a high maintenance person. Maybe you're staying up late, making noise past curfew, things like that. And I don't think this is urban legend at all. I don't think this is a myth. I think this is 100% true. I'm sure back in the day, campgrounds probably did put people on some type of list, maybe did have little notes about them. I think we can kind of back this up a little bit, Sean, because the fact that we had the company Deadbeat Campers on the show, where they're now doing a online digital database for campgrounds to help them not only keep track of this, but actually share that information not only within their own campground, but across the country to other campgrounds. They can now put a warning to a campground across the country and say, "Hey, this is what this camper has been doing back at our campsites and our campgrounds and our properties. So just be aware." Yeah, so I think there's 100% a real list.
Yeah, and I think campgrounds, instead of probably marking on sites or something like that, I bet there's just notes in their computers.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think maybe somewhere along the lines, this myth became a little exaggerated in the fact that I don't think anybody's going out there and marking a flag for everybody to see. Like maybe even if it's just a yellow flag on play type of thing. But yeah, I think it's all written down somewhere. And now with modern tech, now it's being put into the computers. Yeah, people people might think they're getting away with stuff, but eventually it'll probably catch up to them and they'll have to put a stop to their ways because they're not just hurting the campground, but they could be hurting the next guest that's coming in. They could be hurting their neighbors if they're loud and obnoxious, but they could be hurting the next guest from coming in. You might have to delay your check-in time or yeah, there's harm harm to it.
Yeah, and with the deadbeat campers now, you won't just get affected at one campground, but it could affect you at multiple campgrounds.
Yeah, so I think the lesson here is just be on good behavior, folks. You
Yeah.
I think everything comes down to common sense, right? I mean, if you're supposed to be out at a certain time, be out at that time. A couple minutes probably isn't going to hurt anybody or hurt anything, but if you're there for 30 extra minutes or an extra hour, then it does.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Another one that you hear about is maybe that Walmarts or Cracker Barrels, casinos, and things like that are keeping a list of guests who abuse the overnight parking policy. I don't know about this one, Sean, because I think you had mentioned that they're most of these places are independently owned. They're franchised and they're independently owned. So the fact that they're maybe keeping a list might be a little bit of a stretch, but maybe not too much of a stretch.
Yeah, I think it would be harder with these kinds of places because, well, maybe they get your tags information, but a lot of like when we stay at Cracker Barrels and stuff, they don't ask for. Yeah, I think maybe 1 or 2 casinos we've stayed at had you, like, do, like, a registration, but for Cracker Barrels, definitely not.
I agree. Cracker Barrel's probably not. Walmart's probably not, but a casino could be. I've been to a few casinos that, they want your license plate through your name, your hometown, how long you're staying for. They may be keeping a list, and if you cause trouble there, I could see casinos ban. I mean, just like casinos ban people from walking in. I could see casino doing it, but Cracker Barrel, nobody usually knows my name. I mean, I park, I go in, I order something to eat. One, they don't even know that I came out on RV because it's always you're parked behind the building, so they don't see me coming out of the RV to go inside and order food. Same thing with Walmart. Most Walmarts are not asking for any type of information. You might just call ahead and say, "Hey, I'm in an RV. I'm passing through your town. Is it okay if I stay overnight?" They never ask for any. They usually say yes. Some do say no. You got to be careful which ones you go to, but they don't take any information. So I don't think they're keeping a list.
Yeah, and I also think with casinos, they have usually security that's roaming around, so they're keeping a closer eye on things, I
Hmm.
think, than Walmart or Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Sabrina likes staying at casinos so much. Me too. They're usually well lit and security driving around. We feel pretty safe, pretty secure at the casinos, more so than most of the other locations.
I bet if, like, the morning manager constantly sees the same RVs sitting in their parking lot in the morning when they come in, I bet they probably say something to them, but I'm not sure they put them on a list.
Yeah, I've wondered that too, Sean, about like the Cracker Barrel and Walmart. Somebody must be observing a little bit anyway. Otherwise, people would just move into Walmarts and just park there, forever. I'm sure people have gotten away with maybe 2 nights. I would think anything more than 2 nights though, somebody's coming out to say, "Hey, this isn't a campground. This isn't, a place for you to stay for a week. We just let you stay here one night is supposedly the rule, unless you go in and you talk to a manager and say, "Hey, maybe you're visiting family in the area and you would like to stay 2 nights." I don't even know if Walmart would let you stay 2 nights. I really think their policy is 1 night. Same thing with Cracker Barrel. Unless you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner at that Cracker Barrel, but then it'd be just cheaper to get a campground at that point.
You could have breakfast 3 times a day.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, breakfast all day.
Then I guess there's the classic phantom dump station rumor that, like, people say it's listed in multiple apps, and when they show up, there's no sign of it.
Mhm.
I don't use dump stations outside of campgrounds, so I don't even I wouldn't even know how to look for a dump station like that. So, I'm not sure about this one.
I do, and I would say that most of the time, if the app says so I use RV Parky. gives me dump stations, and so does iOverlander. They're the 2 apps that I use to find dump stations. Or Flying J's. Flying J's will also. They'll if you go in the Flying J app, it'll tell you if it has RV spaces and dump station. What usually happens is you may get to a rest area and iOverlander or RV Parky said it had a dump station, and then you get there and you can't really find the dump station. I think what has happened is that maybe at one time that rest area did have a dump station, but they have paved over it. Maybe people were vandalizing it because I've been to some. Unfortunately, I've been to some rest areas that do provide a dump station, and it's not well taken care of. People are leaving trash. They'll usually have a trash can nearby so that you can, just get rid of your plastic gloves and things like that. And people have overfilled the trash can, or they've made a mess and they don't clean up their mess afterwards. I would imagine, and these are always free when they're at a rest area. So I would imagine that the park maintenance for that rest area probably got tired of it, complained enough to, the state or the county or wherever the rest area is, and they shut it down. And I've seen some that just have a lock on them. Sometimes I've seen an area that looks like it used to be a dump station. It's got the little box for where the sewer used to connect to, but now it's actually cemented over. I think that's really what happens in most of these cases is that it's just that the apps are not updated with the newest information. Maybe last year somebody emptied there. They wrote down in the app, "Hey, this rest area had a dump station. Great location. I even slept there overnight." The dump station gets closed down. The next person that goes might not be for another year that somebody needs to use that dump station or that they're in the app and it's no longer there. So I think it's just a lack of the apps being updated. I don't think there's like phantom
Mhm.
dump stations floating around the country.
And when you say rest areas, Kenny, you're talking
Mhm.
about the rest stops on the side of the highways.
Yep, yep.
Huh.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them that offer. I would say it's goes by state. If like one rest area has a dump station in a state, then most of them do. I'm trying to think of some of the ones that are definitely. I think Ohio is one that I've been in that has them. I think Kentucky usually has dump stations in their rest areas. Sabrina and I were just driving somewhere and we saw them, so it must have been either Oregon, Colorado, or Wyoming. One of them had dump stations at their rest areas too, and they're free.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And they usually have, they want you to use it. They usually have like a spigot on a spring hose that goes up, over, and hangs down. They just want you to clean up the area when you're done with the dump station. We've been at rest areas sometimes where there's like 3 or 4 dump stations in the rest area, and you can just line up RVs all side by side. Almost, I mean, better than like a state park would be.
Wow.
Yeah, if anybody's listening and you're trying to find cheap ways to empty your tanks while on the road, RV Parky and iOverlander will show dump stations. Just take a look at the last review of the date. So if it's like 2 years old or even a year old, there is a chance you might show up and that dump station's not there anymore. But if it was from this year, this month, a lot of times you'll see somebody that just used it the day before. So this way there is a dump station before you actually arrive there and find out, oh, it's missing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I could see how it's that could be outdated.
Yeah.
So the next one that we want to talk a little bit about is a little more unsettling. And over the years, we've come across quite a few reports of strange or unexplainable experiences in RV parks and boondocking sites. And some of them come from historical locations like maybe Gettysburg or old mining towns or stretches of Route 66, which Kenny just did, or even one of the more persistent stories involves RVers hearing distant cannon fire near a park in Pennsylvania, or footsteps at night, or even sightings of figures in uniforms. And I'll just say, I live in northwestern Virginia, and there's a lot of Civil War battlefields here. So I would say if there were ghosts, it would be, there would be a lot in this area because the Civil War was pretty bad.
Yeah, and I feel as if I am. Geez, I don't know if I believe in ghost stories. I'm not even sure if I 100% believe in ghosts and things like that, but I feel like I am sensitive to these things. Like, it doesn't take much for my imagination to get going. And if I watch a scary movie, which I try to avoid, it sticks with me for days and I don't rest very well after watching horror movies. So I actually stopped watching horror movies probably about 20 years ago because I value my sleep a little too much. If I'm in the house, I feel as if, I hear noises. I think sometimes I see something. But it's funny when I'm in my RV, I don't have any of those experiences. I don't really hear spooky sounds, I would say, in my RV, even though the RV is louder than the house. I never feel as if my RV is haunted or could be haunted. But Sean, I never really thought about the area that I'm in with the RV could be haunted. So that gives me something new to to ponder over the next time I'm like out dry camping or boondocking, or maybe even at some of these campgrounds, like you said, on the East Coast. Like I know Sabrina and I stayed in Williamsburg one year, and I would think that would be another area that has like high paranormal activity going on. And we
Yeah.
did we did one of those ghost tours, and it was more of a history tour than a ghost tour. But I remember being on that tour in Williamsburg, and we were walking through a cemetery. It's of course at night, and I smell somebody like smoking a cigar and just a heavy smoky smell. And I was like, man, that's really odd that somebody's on this tour right now smoking a cigar with us. I didn't see anybody smoking a cigar. Our father was visiting us in Williamsburg too, and he smelled the same thing. Because I said to him, I was like, "You smell that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I smell that." He's like, "It's pretty strong." And then a few minutes later, the tour guide says, "This is the tombstone of," I can't remember the person's name, so and so. A lot of people, when they're in this area, tell us later that they smelled a cigar or a strong sense of cigarette smoke. And me and my dad looked at each other and we're like, "You got to be kidding me! Are they like pumping artificial cigar smoke out here?" Which I don't think they would be doing for a Williamsburg tour. But we thought that was really just bizarre. And like I said, I'm not a strong believer in the paranormal, but it doesn't take much for my imagination to get going. And I was like, I really, I mean, we smelled it before the tour guide mentioned it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's strange.
It was strange. It was strange. And I'm definitely a person that feels like things always need an explanation. I didn't, the only explanation I came up with is that they are pumping like an artificial cigar smoke just for a few, like, not everybody seemed to smell it. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I bet though there are times, especially in unfamiliar places where people hear something and
Mhm.
assume it's a ghost.
Yeah, I took a Winnebago Revel out for 7, 8 nights with, it was just Belle and I. We were camping in the Black Hills. And I think a lot of these can be attributed to wildlife, and that's what I think this noise was. Me and Belle were outside of the Revel. It was like 10 p.m. It's just us. We're at this dry camping area that nobody was around. There was nobody around for miles and miles. And we heard such a strange noise. It wasn't coyotes. It didn't sound like a wolf. It sounded like a low level howl slash growl. I mean, I thought it sounded like a Bigfoot. It wasn't like a noise that I'm familiar with. And I'm still sticking with that we heard Bigfoot out in the Black Hills of South Dakota because I have no idea what it was. I got a little bit of a recording on my phone to play Sabrina later. She didn't really recognize it either. Belle didn't like the noise. I didn't like the noise. And you know what? I mean, it couldn't have terrified us too much because I didn't get in the RV. I didn't hop back in the Revel and drive away. I just said to Belle, I was like, let's just go back inside. we just, I got my bear spray with me. I was like, let's just go back inside where the bear spray is because maybe it's a bear. I've never heard what a bear sounds like. So it could have easily have been a bear, but it spooked me out again. But once I'm back in the RV, I feel pretty safe again. I feel like, all right, no paranormal activities happening in this Revel that was just built 3 weeks ago. You know? But yeah, I gotta. I was gonna say now I gotta start paying attention to the places that I camp overnight, but maybe I shouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm not sure what our brains do. It'd be interesting to read a
Hmm.
couple of neuroscience published studies on like imagination and what happens to our brains when we, hear something or start thinking about something related to ghosts, or like you said, you heard a noise that was probably an animal, but you thought it was a bigfoot. Like our
Yeah.
imagination, I think, does weird things and makes it seem like a reality.
Yeah, and I know for me myself, I can take words or listen to a story and paint a pretty good picture of it in my mind. And I know that's not the case for everybody because I talked to Sabrina about this, and Sabrina's like, well, I mean, I can kind of visualize, but she doesn't seem to be a very visual thinker, I guess. And I'm a very visual thinker. If I start hearing things, my imagination starts painting a whole picture of what I'm hearing in my mind, and it freaks me out sometimes.
And, a lot of times, like, right before I fall asleep at night, our AC is usually running in the house because
Hmm.
we cool it off at night to sleep better, and, like, when I get really tired, you can kind of hear different things when it's really just the air conditioner. Like, it might sound musical or something like
Mm.
that, but it's just the air conditioner that's making noise, like different frequencies and stuff.
Yeah, I hear that too, Sean. And white noise machines too. I'll hear that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, like even to the point that I think I hear people like talking through the noise, and I'll turn it off. I'm like, nope, no talking. It just must be that white noise, but maybe the way it's sitting on the table, it's vibrating a little bit. And yeah, I totally get that, Sean. I hear stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, so I think some of that goes into it too. Strange.
It is
Because,
strange.
like, if you're close to power lines, a lot of times you can
Mhm.
hear them,
Yep.
and so that may make people think they're hearing something they're not really hearing.
Yeah. I It's funny you mentioned that, Sean, because back at our home base here in Arizona, our power lines are extremely loud. I don't know if it's the dry humidity, like the lack of humidity or what, but they have a lot of cackle and just noise to them, just noise. The power lines out front of our house are so loud. I could see that being something that people would hear in the distance too and be like, "What is that weird noise out there?"
Yeah. But last night, it was really late, and we were out driving home. I mean, it was after midnight, and we live out in the country, and just driving home, we probably saw 20 deer, we saw 2 foxes, we saw a possum, we saw a rabbit, and a couple other animals. If you were camping, you would definitely hear those things,
Mhm.
running around, and foxes make weird noises, so, yeah, it could be a little freaky.
Do they sound like Bigfoot?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
Actually, I've never heard Bigfoot, so I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. That's true. Yeah. Maybe Bigfoot does sound like a fox.
This next one, Kenny, is sort of my favorite topic in this area that we're talking about, and that is conspiracy theories around, like, one is around RV components like slide motors, refrigerators, air conditioners, that they're engineered to fail shortly after the warranty ends. And I think some people refer to it as planned obsolescence. Although it doesn't seem far-fetched because things seem to break when the warranty goes out, but I think it's also you haven't really thought about things breaking before because you had the warranty, so it was covered.
Mm.
But now that you don't have the warranty, when something breaks, it's a larger impact.
Yeah. I think things like components like that, refrigerator, AC unit, stove, probably not so much, but maybe something like our phones that get updates and actually have some type of connection back to the manufacturer. I wouldn't doubt that they send like a bug in the phone once it's like so that your phone doesn't last forever, so that you always have to keep on like upgrading your phone or getting a better phone, or they make these programs larger and larger so that you don't have enough storage for your phone. I don't know so much about warranty stuff, but I'm sure there are products that are designed not to last. Products that are designed that they want you to be continuing upgrading them and almost force you into upgrading where they make your device obsolete. I don't think that's the case with like a refrigerator. I don't think there's anything inside a refrigerator that is like put together in such a way that it's made to expire in a year.
Yeah. Yeah, and also think about it, if companies extended their warranties so that they would cover everything that broke, then you would be paying a lot more for the RV.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I
they're designing those warranties to cover, like, faulty parts, not failure due to use or life of the part.
Yeah, I agree with that, Sean, and I also think too, like, these appliances, if everybody was having issues with these appliances a year in or year after, whatever the warranty is, people would be really complaining about them and just going to a different brand. If it was Furion, and especially now with Facebook groups, and everybody was like, "Oh, 1 year into my ownership of my Furion stovetop, I'm just picking Furion. I'm not picking on them. I'm just
Mhm.
randomly picking Furion." It was the first name that came to my mind. These stovetops break after a year, and now it's out of warranty. Well, people would just start to complain tremendously about them, and nobody would use that in their builds anymore because especially now because of Facebook and these social media groups and forums, word gets around about poor quality pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, with social media, it's very fast to spread.
Yeah, so I think that is I'm not gonna say for appliances and things like that, that's a conspiracy. I don't think these appliances are built with the intent to break down after warranty. I don't think they're
Yeah,
built to
n
last forever, but
right, exactly. Everything breaks eventually.
yeah, everything gets wear and tear. So yeah, I think they're and like you said too, Sean, expense comes into play. I think they're just built to last X amount of time, but it is not built to last just until the warranty ends.
Mm, right.
This was an interesting one, and there could be a little bit of truth to this one, only because, and I'll read it. That the campground booking systems prioritize certain brands or types of RVs or rigs, giving better sites to say maybe a new Class A over a travel trailer, regardless of how early the reservation was made. I will say that there might be just a little bit of truth to that, only because I know there are campgrounds that exist that only accept motorhomes, that only accept Class A motorhomes. One, I don't know why that would be. Like, I have no idea why some parks are Class A only. I don't think there's such a thing as a travel trailer only park. So I don't know why a campground would be looking to have a Class A stay at their park rather than a travel trailer. What would be the appeal other than the fact that a Class A motorhome, not I don't even think this is the case anymore, but Class A motorhomes typically in the past were always more expensive than a travel trailer. But now these travel trailers can be just as expensive as a Class A motorhome. So,
Yeah, I think it goes back to, like, sort of, quote, unquote, "profiling," where they
mm,
knew that the people that were in Class A's or even these motor coach resorts, they knew the people were usually more financially stable and are probably not gonna cause a lot of problems and maybe not causing a lot of damage or things like that. I think it's probably an obsolete thing now given that, like you said, some fifth wheels or high-end Airstreams cost more than a Class A.
yeah, there's Airstreams that are easy over 100,000. There's definitely fifth wheels over 200,000. Bumper pools now with the new EV versions of like Pebble and stuff like that, easily over 100,000. I also wonder too, maybe some of these RV parks that were like motor coach only were trying to only get couples or older couples, whereas like travel trailer things like that would have been families with kids, and maybe they were trying to go for a more adult upscale feel to them. Now, do you think that trickles down though to Sean to like say we'll say KOA just because we know KOA pretty well, but to your just standard KOA, I can't see that KOA is turning away any travel trailers, fifth wheels, and trying to prioritize and say, no, we only want motorhomes at this campground. I just don't see them doing that, especially since I go to KOAs
Mhm.
and other campgrounds. You see travel trailers all the time.
Yeah, I think it's a just a subset of campgrounds that do it. I have heard, though, about that 10-year rule, but really,
Mm.
I think it's not really a 10-year rule, it's like a 10-year and falling apart rule. Like, they don't want RVs that are falling apart in their campgrounds because I think it opens them up maybe to some liability and insurance reasons, but I don't yeah, I agree with you, Kenny.
Yeah, I've only been asked about that age one time at a campground, so I don't think that's really even that. Luckily, it's not all that common because in January my RV does turn 10 years old, and my RV is not pretty. I do a good job of maintaining to make sure everything's functional on it, but I don't do a great job in keeping it looking new, that's for sure. So if somebody would ask me for photos, I'd have to detail it real quick, send them the photos, and then to be very disappointed when I showed up.
This next one, I see some truth to this one, Kenny, and that is that there are those who believe that Starlink or GPS data is quietly being used to monitor movement patterns for marketing. It says here it's probably just behavioral targeting, but it makes you think of what kind of digital trail we're all leaving behind. I believe these apps and these services are tracking you
Yeah, I
100%.
I also 100% believe that Google Maps is tracking me, keeping data, sharing my data of where I've traveled, probably even sharing data as far as like, oh, well, he goes to this restaurant, he goes to this restaurant, times. Because you can look, I don't see it all the time. And I don't know how I am able to bring it up sometimes and not all the time. But if you go into Google Maps, and you click, that you're headed to, say you're going to a Pizza Hut, it'll tell you if that Pizza Hut is either busier or less busy than usual. So they are 100% tracking like how often people are going, what times they are going. I think a lot of data is being collected. I think spending habits are probably being collected. Yeah, for sure. That is, I mean, I don't want to contribute to the conspiracy, but I think this is a real thing.
Yeah, I think
we
so too.
we are being monitored by everything. There was a time that I was talking to my brother on the phone, not even a text message, and I had mentioned to him that I was thinking about flying to Philly to visit mom and dad, and that same day in my Google Ads, I was getting flights to Philadelphia for the prices and everything. And that was on a phone call, not even a text message. Yeah, we are being listened to, followed, whatever you, I mean, I'm not paranoid about it. I don't really care. I don't think, it doesn't bother me that they're using this information for marketing and trying to get me to buy something. I know other people would feel very, what would the word be, that it is very intrusive and a breach of privacy and all that. But I feel like this is the what we sign up for in this world. Like if you want to use these features, if you want to have the apps, if you want to have the smartphone, this is the price we kind of pay for it. We know that we're going to be tracked and monitored and targeted for marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just life now,
Yeah,
unless you wanna get rid of all your technology.
I don't know if anybody's old enough to listen to, but before technology, we wondered a lot about things. And now we don't have to wonder about anything. Like anything you can come up with or think of on the spot, I try to stay away from, this is just a quick example, but I try to stay away from caffeine. Sabrina had a kombucha in the refrigerator. I was able to take my phone, open up the camera on my phone, and use something called Google Lens. I'm sure everybody's like, doesn't he? Everybody knows about Google Lens, but use
Mhm.
Google Lens. You take a picture of it, and you can ask a question about the item that you're taking a picture. So I said, does this brand of kombucha have caffeine in it? It looks at the picture I took and comes back with an AI generated answer, and the answer was yes, but it did have mild caffeine, 4 to 5 grams or milligrams per bottle. And I thought that was just amazing that I can take a picture of something now and ask a question about the picture that I took. We might be out on a hike or something. and we can take a picture of a plant and Google Lens tells us what the plant is. Like there's no wondering about anything anymore. Like our phones give us we now have become like the smartest people on earth. Well, maybe not. I take that. I retract that one. We are not the smartest people on earth in the history of Earth, but we have the ability to have all of our answers, or I should say, we now have the ability to have all of our questions answered for us. I'd still recommend doing a little bit of fact checking that the Google and AI is not always correct, but it gets us pretty close. All that to say, I'm not ready to go back to wondering about everything.
Yeah, and I think we wouldn't have all that if they didn't track everything and capture it.
Technology, I guess, has always been a double-edged sword, probably more so now than ever before, but I still think there's a lot more benefit and good to it than bad coming from it. I like my technology. I like my smartphone and what it's able to accomplish.
For sure.
I mean, it even makes RVing easier. Finding places to stay, looking for dump stations, giving us reviews on products. Just yeah, it's just ordering and having things delivered to different campgrounds for us. Everything is now done through my phone. It's like the most important materialistic item I probably own, more so than my car.
Yeah, I would agree that either a computer or a phone
Hmm.
are the most important thing that we own now, as I sit in front of my 2 laptops.
That's right. I know you're more of a computer guy than a phone guy, and I think I'm more of a phone guy than computer guy, but I do use my laptop a lot too. But, I think all of these conspiracies, even if you don't really agree with any of them or agree with any of us, there's gotta be, I would say, a little bit of truth to all of them. Just where there's smoke, there's fire.
So, Kenny, we asked listeners this past week if they experienced anything unusual on the road. A few of the replies were quite strange. In fact, one person wrote in about a night at a state park in Michigan, and they were woken up around 3 a.m. by what sounded like footsteps circling their RV. And it was raining, so they assumed that it was just wildlife until they looked out and then they didn't see any footprints or
Mm.
any animal prints or anything in the mud the next morning.
Yeah, that would freak me out a little bit. I probably wouldn't stay. Like I said, my mind plays too many tricks on me. I'd probably have to move to a different spot. But see, I have no explanation for that one, unless they were like big birds, like walking around on their roof or their slide toppers or something like that. But if you actually hear footsteps, yeah, I don't have no explanation for that one. The very first time I was in an RV, we rented one. And it was me, Sabrina, and a friend of ours. And he was sleeping in the overhead bunk over the chairs, and we were sleeping in the back of the RV. And all night long, we thought somebody was trying to break into the RV. Like we didn't realize, I guess, just how much an RV moved when other people moved. In the morning, we found it was just him, like, rolling over in his overhead bunk, and it would shake the RV a little bit and, wake us up and startle us because 'cause we're not used to it, and we thought that was somebody breaking in. Come to find out, he thought somebody was trying to break into the RV all night long because every time we were rolling over, it was waking him up. So, our very first night in RV was a whole paranoid, I don't know what you would wanna call it, paranoid something. Everybody in that RV that night didn't sleep because we were all paranoid that somebody was trying to break into the RV, and it was just us. It was just us moving around.
Yeah, there's definitely new motion and sounds in an RV compared to anywhere else.
I say all that to come back to this person. Like, this person might have, maybe they were new to RVing, and maybe the footsteps that they heard was a neighboring RV. Like the RVs aren't very quiet, or maybe somebody in their own RV. Maybe they got kids and they were walking around. Like you hear everything in an RV. There's not, I wouldn't say there's not much privacy, but there's not. You just hear everything. You know everything that's going on outside, or inside, or up on your roof, or under. That could be explained too. I think the
Yeah,
footsteps.
like the first time we had birds on our roof
Hmm.
that were like pecking at the roof, that was a weird sound too. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and it's loud.
It's
Um,
loud, yeah.
little tree branches. I won't even say branch. Little twigs of trees that fall down up on top of your roof sometimes sound pretty loud too. And you're like, you go outside to see what it is, and there's nothing going on.
Yep.
You don't actually see. I mean, it's a little windy, and
Mhm.
sure, the tree might have lost a couple pieces, but they're pretty small pieces. If you guys want to share more stories, definitely leave it down in the comment section of this episode. We want to hear your paranormal stories, your conspiracy theories, anything that kind of makes you go, is that really true? Definitely write to us.
The reason why a lot of these things start is because when you're RVing, you're typically you're not surrounded by crowds. I
Mm.
mean, you could be boondocking and not surrounded by anybody. You're often in unfamiliar places, a lot of times disconnected from the digital world, or even TV or radio is tough to get sometimes. That makes you be more observant and more imaginative. So you start to hear things and see things that may not actually be there, tying sounds you never heard of to things that you're making up in your mind.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, if something's unknown to us, we naturally try to connect it to something that we do know, and maybe sometimes that thing that we do know isn't always a friendly connection.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot.
I don't know what that sound is. It must be Bigfoot. But I think that's it for this episode, guys. We always want to hear from you. But our next couple episodes, we don't have a guest. We're working on guests. Yeah, it's a funny thing, this show, where we reach out to people. They say they want to be on the show. We send them questions, and they disappear for a little while. So right now, that's going on with about 3 or 4 different companies. Lippard, if you're listening, you're one of them. We were in conversations with Lippard. They were pretty excited to come on the show, and now they're kind of disappearing on us. Other guests, I will say, are my fault that I'm not following up as well as I should. PNW Campers is one of those companies. I'm going to write them tomorrow and tell them that we are still interested. I'm sorry for the delay of getting them on. So for these next couple episodes, it will just be Sean and I. If you guys have topics that you would like us to cover, it doesn't even have to be anything substantial. It could be tiny little topics. You'd be surprised how much Sean and I can talk about something to make a full episode out of it. So write to us. Let us know. Write us Kenny at beyondthewheelpodcast.com or Sean at beyondthewheelpodcast.com. We definitely want to hear from you. We want to hear what you would like to hear more of on the show. If you have a couple ideas, we could always mold that together and make a big driver's edition out of it, even. That's it for us. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We want to thank you for tuning in. We want you to be safe on the road, and we will catch you next time. Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop in replacement for traditional lead acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.